Paul Ryan released his budget proposal, or his budget, right? Because I think it was 2 years ago when he released his budget proposal. Everyone kind of only used the word bold, right? Because they were afraid of what was in it. So he releases his budget proposal that was basically written by the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation writes up something that went up last night, saying how everything that is in his budget proposal is fantastic, including repealing Obamacare. Interestingly enough, Obamacare was a Heritage Foundation idea that they came up with in 1989. The individual mandate was something that would make Americans make sure that Americans wouldn't have socialized health care, right? So that was something that the Heritage Foundation came up with, and then that was the alternative to Hillary Care for Bob Dole and Newt Gingrich, and it was also exactly what Mitt Romney implemented when he was the governor of Massachusetts and therefore the grandfather of Obamacare. But now, since it's called Obamacare, the individual mandate is against our freedoms, and it's for some reason it's socialized medicine, even though I'm paying a premium to a private company. I have no idea how that works, but apparently that's what passes for socialized care. So here's the thing with this very cozy relationship between the Heritage Foundation and Paul Ryan. Actually, we have a clip, right? So let's play this clip with, again, Chris Wallace, who should be the most friendly person in the world to anything the Heritage Foundation comes up with, Koch brothers, whatever. But here, this is a bizarre interview on Sunday. Can we play that?
Can you honestly say that by turning Medicaid into a block grant and giving it to the states, that you can cut $770 billion out of that program over the next 10 years, and it's going to have no impact on legitimate recipients?
These are increases that have not come yet. So by repealing Obamacare and the Medicaid expansions, which haven't occurred yet, we are basically preventing an explosion of a program that is already failing. So we're saying don't grow this program through Obamacare because it doesn't work. Prevent that growth from going because it's not going to work. It's going to hurt people who are trying to help. It's going to hurt hospitals and states, and give the states the tools that they're asking for. Indiana is a perfect example. They have a fantastic Medicaid program that Mitch Daniels created in Indiana that is popular, that's successful, that's working well, but Obamacare prevents it from going forward. We want to give states like Indiana, states like Wisconsin, the tools they need to make these benefits work for their populations, and we don't want to push more people into a failing program. And by not pushing people into this failing program, we do save these kinds of dollars.
I want to pick up on this because I must say I didn't understand this. Are you saying that as part of your budget you assume the repeal of Obamacare?
Yes.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Well, we believe it should. That's the point.
Okay, first off, let me just say that Paul Ryan is the guy you hated in high school who grew up to be the guy you hated in high school. Like I think that Republicans find him to be a compelling person, but everyone else thinks he's a weenie. And here's the thing that really is shocking to me, and I don't think gets enough attention, that when it comes to, his budget is fantasy, right? So it has nothing to do with the facts on the ground and what's going on. It's not going to pass, so it's a piece of libertarian fantasy. That if we all just acted better, did exactly what we were supposed to, nobody needed the government to help them out, there were no longer hurricanes, and we didn't need FEMA, and we didn't need this, and roads just magically healed themselves, and whatever. If we can just sprinkle libertarian fairy dust on the country, and then we won't need the government. Everything is solved. And so it comes from the perspective of we are going to have a fantasy of something that will never happen, which is it already went to the Supreme Court. It's not going to happen. Obamacare is here to stay. It's unfortunately not socialized medicine, which could be great because it actually could make us a lot more competitive if we didn't have these astronomical healthcare costs. But another story for another day. So it comes from an imaginary premise and then goes along from there about their plan. So their plan is basically to have an alternate universe. And I bring this up because I did a story about the first time Paul Ryan really, basically had the Heritage Foundation write a budget for him, and then he put his name on it, and then asked the Heritage Foundation to score it, and then of course they referenced each other. We were trying to find a non-blue way to say circle jerk, but no, that's good. It applies. Circle jerk. So I just want to read this because this is amazing to me. But this is the Heritage Foundation's 2001 report on what was going to happen with the Bush tax cuts. This is true. We're going to put this up on the screen. Okay, number 1, effectively pay off the federal debt. Bush tax cuts. 2, reduce the federal surplus by $1.4 trillion. 3, substantially increase family income. 4, save the entire Social Security surplus. Whoa. 5, increase personal savings. 6, create more job opportunities. This actually happened. This is what, and when I talked to, and of course it's the man who did it, a gentleman by the name of William Beach, who was very nice to actually talk to me. He not only scored the Bush tax cuts, saying all these awesome things. It was going to make, more jobs, more family savings. Everyone's teeth were going to be straighter. We were all going to be better in bed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everything awesome in the world was going to happen once we passed these tax cuts. Then, of course, reality happened, and that none of that came to fruition. And when I asked him why, like that he was incorrect, and why, as a journalist, when I get something wrong, I make a correction, right? I get someone's name wrong, I spell something wrong, I cite the wrong facts or figures, I make a correction. And so everybody who reads my work knows Tina screwed up, right? There's a big fat, there was an error here. You can read through the errors of most publications. A lot of online or a lot of television journalism doesn't do that, but it's essentially about getting the first draft of history and then trying to get it right with, if there's anything that you get wrong. So when I talked to Mr. Beach, he said that when they score these programs and these ideas, it is right at that moment. So at that very second, they are correct. And then the September 11th attacks happened, and then there were, other cuts that they didn't factor in. And so no matter what, no matter how ridiculous these policies are, in reality, they get to have their imaginary reality where the Bush tax cuts made everyone's teeth straighter. And that's how these are scored. So when our little friend, when our little gym rat friend, Paul Ryan, today, it was Sunday in the Wall Street Journal, because that's another part of this kind of trifecta, right? So you have the Heritage Foundation comes out and says that everything that Paul Ryan has written is awesome, and we agree with everything in there. And then Paul Ryan saying the Heritage Foundation agrees with me. And then the Wall Street Journal publishes his op-ed saying this is why we need this. Well, in his op-ed today, he said that his budget would increase job opportunities and wages would go up. And it was like, oh, that sounds really familiar, because they say that a lot. And what's happened instead is that wages have flatlined. The middle class really doesn't exist. We've had fewer job opportunities, and when they are job opportunities, they are for a minimum wage that is nowhere near equal to what the minimum wage was 30 years ago, because we stopped actually increasing it and the middle class is basically flattened out. We've had fewer and fewer opportunities, yet in this alternate universe that they're working from, that they're scoring policy from, it's awesome.